I think it's important to slow our lives and our minds down enough to really understand what that man was talking about. And oftentimes in life, even you may even look at your addiction, in the flesh, you're addicted. And the thing is that's like the end of the world. Like your life is over and all these things that you can't do now because you're chemically dependent or you're an addict or you're an alcoholic and all those different things. And you see a man like that saying that he had the similar problems that as we did, and one of the consequences of his drinking is he has to live in a wheelchair, but yet because of his relationship with God and with Jesus, he is able to see his circumstances from a different perspective. You hear it said in these rooms all the time, I'm grateful I'm an addict. I'm grateful I'm an addict. I'm grateful I had to fail as many times as I did because everything that I've ever been through has made me who I am. I truly believe in Romans 8:28 where God says that he will work all things together for the good for those who basically love him and are called according to his purpose. You heard a man in a wheelchair a moment ago. He knows what his purpose is. He's not going to look at his challenge at the end of his life and all the things he can't do. He's going to recognize what he can do with God. And I'm here to tell you, I'm honest as I always want to be, that I would have never sought God unless I was an addict. I certainly would have been a pastor. I would have never worked the steps. I would have never learned how to be honest. I've been sober. I've been dry. I still lied and all those different things. Without my addiction, I would never have the life that I have. I'm grateful for it. I'm grateful. It taught me how to feel. It taught me recovery. These rooms taught me how to be honest and be transparent and vulnerable. I run in a lot of circles, as I alluded to earlier, where nothing can touch this circle. And what I hear in these circles, especially the small groups, is wisdom and discernment. But the wisdom and discernment tends to leave once you leave the circle. So why wouldn't you stay in the circle? I mean, tonight, I'll have 30 to 40 men on this stage in small group. Some are 18, some are 24, some are 50, some are 60. All different ways that they came up and how they were raised and what they were addicted to and what their mental health challenges are. But there's nothing that can touch the wisdom that is laid down during that group. But once we leave the circle, it seems like we lose it. It's why it's important to stay in the circles. Being in the circle is a blessing and a privilege in all those different ways, and it comes at a cost. It's going to cost you. And as we conclude this series about being in sync, it's important that, as Darren alluded to, he didn't really know what he turned his life over to as he recited the first 3 steps. But he knew he needed to turn his life over to something other than him. For that something, as he alluded to, the first time in 14 years, I did a salvation call, and it was crazy in here. It was awesome. But the bottom line is this, that what I was doing wasn't working, that my best thinking got me here, so I had to learn how to get in sync with God. The definition of sync on your sheet says a state, that I needed to change my state of mind. My state of mind was crazy, and it still is to a certain extent. It was chaotic, it was judgmental, it was insecure, it was doubting, it was offended, it was critical, it was gossipy, it was all this garbage that I thought was because I was a crack addict. I thought that's the way I was because my drugs are my problem. Well, then I come to find that I was still that same person without the drugs. I may not have been acting like that way, but it was going on in my mind. So a state in which things happen in the same way, in the same time, that's talking about sync. That I need to be in sync with God. I got to be in the circle. The word state also means location. I got to stay in these circles. I got to know where my recovery is at. I know that God speaks and works through people. We talked about a strategy. It isn't your program or my program. Matt, what did you say a couple weeks ago in group about the program thing? Tell me again. It was profound.
It's not your program or my program.
It's the program. So if Matt says he's working his program and I say I'm working my program, who's to say that Matt's program or my program is actually the program? It's not. There's only one way to do that, and that's the strategy. There is, and when it comes to Jesus, he's the way. There's only one way. So a lot of us like to put our little spin on it, put a little sugar on top, and do the things that we think that we need to do. And we now are not even being honest with ourselves, because we have to remind ourselves when we did whatever we wanted to do, this is what got us here. But if that's what it took to get me here, I'm grateful that I did it, because by getting here and learning from being here, I now know how to do things differently. I have a different strategy over my life. A definition of strategy is a plan or a general plan. It's a simple program for complicated people. And it goes on to say, to set out to achieve. What are you trying to achieve by being here other than recovery? And I'm going to get into that here in a minute, but I used to be in these rooms just to learn how to put the plug in the jug, or put the pipe down, or the syringe, or whatever it may have been at the time. And that's something that has to happen in order for any of this to happen. But there's much more than that. And really understanding because I'm here because I want to get my family back. I'm here because I want to get my finances in order. I'm here because I got to beat a legal problem. I'm here because I want to be healthy again. Those are all good things that you want to achieve. But if your real direction of being here is to learn how to live spiritually, all those other things will fall into place. But if you're here only to get those things back through an achievement, there's a chance that you're probably going to lose them again. And we know that when there's a plan, things don't always go in plan, and I'm going to get into that in a minute. And it says, especially over a long period of time, recovery is not a sprint. You can't be in a hurry to recover. You know, if it comes too quick, you may not appreciate it. Sarah Groves sings a song like that. So it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And you got to understand that you got to enjoy the journey, and there's many destinations along the road. But if you don't even enjoy the journey, you won't even see the destination. A lot of you want to achieve the promises that Darren read. But in order to really achieve the promises, you have to work the first 9 steps. Because you won't even know what's in front of you with all that guilt and condemnation and unforgiveness and character defects and shortcomings and fears and resentments that the previous 9 steps deal with. So then we talked about the being in sync with yourself. When you start using drugs or alcohol, pornography, you lose yourself. You're like, this isn't even me. Why am I doing these things? I can't believe what I see myself doing. You'll come to find that you can't even look yourself in the mirror in all these things. And the definition of yourself is the one that is you. You've got to get back to who that person was. You're not damaged goods. You're not a has-been. And some people may call you a has-been, but you're not. That's not what God calls you. Why do you believe what your haters say and you reject what God's saying? We accept the lies and we reject the truth. God has called each and every one of us. That's why he saved us. So the definition of yourself is the one that is you. There is only one you, so why are you trying to pretend to be somebody you're not? That's how we got into this mess, trying to be somebody that we're not. I mean, you talk about work. If you set out to be somebody that you're not, that's a lot of work. And if you're in sync with who God created you to be, and it says your normal, healthy, sane self. Now, that kind of disqualifies all of us. I mean, I think there's something cool about life when you're just a little insane. I don't want to be normal. I do not want to 9 to 5 have, dinner waiting and let's watch our favorite TV show. I'll be smoking crack for sure. I don't want to be normal. I never wanted to be normal. I'll never be normal. And I'm not normal, but I'm here to tell you, my kids still grew up fine because you raised them. I mean, the very people that when we're active in addiction, people want to keep their children away from us. I mean, the state wanted to keep my own children away from me. Okay? But this village, raised my 3 children. I can't think of anybody better than to do it. I mean, the most compassionate, empathetic, those of us who are really doing the deal. I mean, my children learned how to communicate in these rooms. My children learned how to feel in these rooms, so we got to get to ourselves. And then we talked about last week about your name. Oftentimes, your name, as it's described on your sheet, is what you're known as. You have to change what you're known as. Thief, crook, addict, crackhead, drunk, terrible father, manipulator, unreliable, undependable. That's what we're known as. And we come into these rooms and we can't fault people for labeling us that, and then we accept the label and then we live out the label. But God calls you a royal priest. God calls you one of his children. God calls you a new creation. God calls you an overcomer, but we're afraid of those words. We'd rather take the easier, softer way. I'd rather have you call me a crackhead. Now, you can't expect people to change what they know you as if you're still smoking crack. You can't have somebody call you honest when you're still lying. So we talked about the importance that God can reinstate and reestablish your name and how important that is. And also, really knowing the power of the name Jesus. This week, as we conclude this series, as I know, when I set out to do a series, I don't sit in August say, well, in I don't even know what month it is. In March, I'm going to talk about sync. It's not how this works. I didn't even know what C would stand for when I concluded the lesson last week. And then God says, cost. If you're going to be in sync with me, it's going to cost you something. And if it doesn't cost you something, it ain't worth nothing. For too many of us, it's easy to relapse because we know we'll be welcome back. And you will be welcome back. But there's too many people. We talked about it last week in my small group. Before my friend shot up, did he actually think he was going to die? Before the man in the video drove drunk that night, did he think he'd end up in a wheelchair? Before I snorted that first line of cocaine, did I see my children being taken away from me? See, addiction comes at a cost. And for whatever reason, we're willing to pay the price. We're willing to pay the price in our addiction. And the definition of cost says an estimate of a price. I mean, when you said, I want to get sober, did you really know what it would cost you to do that? And when you took your first drink or your drug or your gambling, when you said yes to that life and began to become addicted, did you know what it would cost you? We knew after the first time we used and ended up in treatment that if we used again, it would cost us everything, yet we still used again. So I'm grateful that the definition of cost on your sheet says an estimate, because as far as I'm concerned, 14 years ago, if I would have known what this would cost me in the last several years, I would have never done it. It cost me everything. Ask my children. I got a friend here that I used to work for. We used to travel around the country. He'd watch me do business during the day and throughout the day, and we only had 28 beds back then. He would say to me, I don't understand how you do it. You come out of this business meeting, you got a relapse on the phone. 2 a.m, you're talking to a parent. You leave the airport, you're going to help somebody on a 12. Dave, I want you to come up here. Don't get mad at me. Dave saw the cost of what this would cost Jeff Hill to not only start a program, but also for me to be sober. And he watched me 7 days a week, and he watched what this cost me. What was that like watching that? And here we are all these years later.
Yeah, I'd have never guessed that. I met Jeff on the airplane on a trip down to Wichita, Kansas. Okay, and I knew a little bit about him because my business partner said, I hired this guy. He's doing these sober houses. So I thought, okay. So I was sober for, 20 years when I met you. And we're coming down on the airplane, and Jeff, I'm trying to get his story. He's trying to get my story. And the next morning I got up, and he had a full business plan on everything we're going to do for the next 3 months. Okay.
And I did that sober.
And did that sober. Okay, so I wasn't always sure you were going to always be sober. Okay.
That's a fair statement.
Yeah. So, and then a few years go by, and he's still sober. He's got 5 sober houses, and it's about the time Monica came into his life, and things were getting a lot better. So I think the church, the people, and this is amazing when I come in here. So I'm 38 years sober and looking for 38 in a day. So I came back to my son, who's 32, went into treatment. Well, he'll be a year sober next week. Mm-hmm. So when I went through treatment twice, okay, the first time because I wanted to stay out of jail, my third DWI. And I didn't take it real seriously, but I had to get the card signed if you guys go to the AA meetings. Okay, and this is a true story. I missed one meeting, okay, and I was drinking the next day. And drinking, and about a month of that, I was ready to, I was ready to quit. I was going to drive the car into a bridge abutment and just get it over with, and I thought of my two little kids at home, and I said, I can't do that. Mm. So then at that time, I went back into treatment, and it was, as you read in the big book, the spiritual awakening. Just, I said, enough of this, and listen, read the big book, try and believe it. Maybe they are smarter than I am. I had a hard time believing that. So for 38 years, I haven't been, I guess, tempted a lot. Okay, I've had a lot of things that tempt most people, especially in the last couple of years. So coming back to this meeting, John got me here. I come, my wife comes, and this is amazing. So I needed this back in my life. I've been living for sure dry for 38 years, not always sober, anyway, I didn't expect to get called up here, Jeff. So I've said it, if I'm keeping everybody up here, but
I love you.
You're the best, baby.
God bless you. And the thing is about Dave, he could never understand that when you're in recovery and you're trying to help people, it is a 24/7 operation, and it's got to cost you something. And the definition of cost is to estimate a price. But it's also to give something up. You have to learn that this is going to cost you something. And if it doesn't cost you something, you're going to lose it. So you have an opportunity to give up your cost, or if you don't allow it to cost you anything, you're going to lose it. And I want to talk to you about that tonight because it cost Jesus something. In Isaiah 53, the cost Jesus paid for your freedom, and he paid for this. It's very important that you understand this within reason of your comprehension. That it says he was despised and rejected. We all know what it's like to feel despised and rejected. That's why we went and looked for acceptance in all the wrong places. A man of sorrows, acquainted with the deepest grief. That's describing who Jesus is. We turned our backs on him. So Jesus knows about betrayal. He knows about sorrow. He knows about grief. He knows about rejection. He knows about being despised. And he knows about people saying one thing and doing another. Me being one of those people that have done that to him. It goes on to say, he was despised and we did not care. When you feel like you're despised, you will have no care in making somebody else feel despised. When you feel rejected, when I deal with people that have a hard time because they've been betrayed, they have no problem betraying somebody. It makes no sense. Now, if you felt wronged by being betrayed, one would think you'd be overly sensitive to make sure you don't betray anybody. But the same thing happens. What you resent, you become. It says, yet it was our weaknesses he carried. Now it says, he feels these things and he is willing to carry your weaknesses and my weaknesses. It was our sorrows that weighed him down. See, we are weighed down by our own weaknesses and we are weighed down by our own sorrows, and we are carrying something on our shoulders called grief and being rejected. We can't handle it. but Jesus can. It goes on to say, but he was pierced for our rebellion. He was crushed for our sins. We're going into Easter here. He was beaten so we could be made whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. I love what it says here. I've taught on this for years, but I want you to be really understanding here when it comes to what he can do for you. He will carry your sorrows. He will carry your weaknesses. If you are trying to carry your sorrows and weaknesses, they're too heavy for you. They're going to take you out. It's too heavy for you to try to carry. And beyond that, he knows what sorrow and weakness is about. He saw it. He felt a lot of it. But I love what it says here. He was pierced for our rebellion. Rebellion is an action. Rebellion is pride. Rebellion is thinking you don't have to work a program. He was crushed for our sins. Some of you are tonight, you're still crushed because of your sin. You're just crushed that you could have done that. You're so crushed. You're so guilty. You're so full of shame. You're so full of guilt. You're walking around crushed, and he is saying, why are you crushed when I've already been crushed for what you did? Why are you weighed down with the stuff that I took to hit for you? And it says, so some of us tonight are walking around just totally crushed. He was beaten so we could be made whole. He was whipped so we could be healed. It's one thing to get sober. It's another thing to get healed from the thing that made you drink. Because if you never get healed from what made you drink, you're going to drink again. But I love this. This is what I got studying here. God forgives you for what you did. But here's the thing. After you did it, it's not so much the trouble of doing it and the act itself. It's after you perform the act of whatever it is you're guilty and feeling bad about, it's the feelings that come after it. He forgives the thing you did, and he wants to heal the thing that made you do it. So you don't have to do it again. Some of us don't feel good about what we did, but after we do it and we feel so bad about what we did, we go do it again because it's the only way we can alleviate the pain of what we did, so we continue to do it. I think it's so important. He deals with us after we actually do it, and that's why he's talking about being whole and being healed. The cost of what you have to pay for your freedom, your sobriety. Luke 9, the cost of doing what you don't feel like doing. It's a cost when you do what you don't want to do so you can do what you want to do. It's no cost at all if you do whatever you want to do, and if you do whatever you want to do, you're going to end up doing what you don't want to do. The Bible says that, check this out what it says. Then he said, whoever wants to be my disciple. That means I don't care how many times you relapsed. I don't care how many times you lied. I don't know how many times you left your family, how many times you've been to prison. I don't care what you stole, what you did, who you did it with, who you did it to, when you said this and you did that. Whoever wants to do this, it's available to be done. But the challenge is we're still caught up on what we did, and we're feeling bad about what we did, and we need to be whole from what we did after we did it, and we're not getting healed from what we did. And then what it is we really can't think that he would possibly want to work with us. And the Bible is saying whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves. Has anybody ever sat with you and told you what it means to deny yourself? The human mind is all about doing whatever it wants to do whenever it wants to do it. Whatever's going to make it feel good, the easier, softer way. That is not what is being said here. It's going to cost you denying yourself. And denying yourself doesn't just mean if you want to drink, don't drink. Denying yourself means that you don't have to share your opinion with everybody. Denying yourself means that you may have to take a step back, let God work out everything, and you work a program. That's denying yourself. Denying yourself may mean that you have to listen to counsel and advice and follow it. And then it goes on to say, must take up their cross. See, you have to understand that you'll never be able to follow through on this program if you're still dealing with all this guilt, shame, and condemnation. If you're not made whole by him, you're going to be empty. And if a person is empty, they're going to have to use something from the outside of them to fill them up. And the things that you and I use to fill us up are called drugs and alcohol and gambling and pornography. So if you're walking around half full or half empty and you're not whole and you're not healed, you're going to be seeking things externally to try to fill you up. That's not what he's saying here. He's saying you got to do this daily. Where do you think the AA gets? One day at a time. I don't care that you did this yesterday. You're going to have to do it today. And after you get done doing it today, you're going to have to do it tomorrow. But don't worry about tomorrow and don't worry about that you didn't do it yesterday. Just do it today. And that's why the big book says it's a daily reprieve contingent on our spiritual condition. That we need to understand, a lot of us are living in the glory days. Like, I used to be this, I used to be that. I see it in prison all the time. Well, what are you now? You're on a 12 by 12 cell. So we tend to live in what we used to be, or we can't wait for what we're going to be, and we lose our moment, and we're never present. And check out what it says here. You're going to have to do this to follow him. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. I mean, and I love what it says, but whoever loses their life for me will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet lose or forfeit? So you were willing and I was willing to lose my life for drugs. Right or wrong? You were willing to lose your life with drugs and alcohol and gambling. I was willing to lose my life. But when it comes to God and you need somebody to explain it, what does it mean to lose my life for him so I can save my life? What does it mean for me to truly put my cost down of what I'm willing to do? And how am I possibly going to be able to follow through what I committed to? Do you really know what it costs to get sober and to get free? I mean, is it just an estimate? What does it mean to go all in? What does it mean to deny myself? What does it mean to take up my cross? Because you got to know the difference between his cross and your cross. Your cross, you'll never be able to walk out if you're dealing with all your shame and guilt. You're not healed. You're not whole. You don't allow him to carry your weaknesses or your sorrows. You're not in the act anymore, but you feel just as bad as if you were actually doing it, because now you ain't got nothing to medicate you from what you just did. And we try to carry these things in the room, and the Bible's saying this, that you can go do all these things to fill you up and gain the whole world. Some of us have had a lot of material things. I mean, if they were that important, why'd you put them in the pipe? I put the children in the pipe. So now we get sober again, and we want to get all these things back at any cost. And getting these things back at any cost comes at a cost. You will lose yourself and you will be sober. Now check this out. Matthew 6 says this. I'll go to Luke 10. It says that Jesus is saying the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. I had no problem working for dope. I mean, if you did dope like I did, that was a lot of work. For those of us who are liars, covering up lies is a lot of work. I wasn't afraid to lose my life for drugs, and now I don't want to work for my recovery when I was on an assignment to get one more on a daily basis. I took up my cross of addiction and walked it out daily. Out of dope one night, back on dope the next. It didn't matter what got in my way, I was going to get my dope. It didn't matter what kind of lie you had to tell or what kind of consequences that you would face if you chose to drink today, yet you still drank. That's losing your life. That's denying yourself. That's denying all the things that are important to you. And I love what it says. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. We're sitting here 14 years later with about 14 workers. And about 2 or 3 of us that have remained consistent for 14 years. There's 300 plus of you here tonight. A church that is blowing up just with a couple workers. Can you imagine, with the vibe in this room, what we could do for this city? What you could do for your family? God has saved you for a reason, not to walk around thinking you're some gangbanger. I know real gangbangers. You ain't one of them. You need somebody in your life that's going to tell you what time it is. All your road dogs and homies, they got your back. It's not the case. You want to be around these rooms. I talked to a guy there. I got these people talking smack about it. God, your life is so miserable you got to talk smack about me? I mean, that's how small your thinking is? I mean, and what I want to say is, well, if they are resenting you or me, you should probably suggest if they're in these rooms to do a 4-step. Not talk smack at an AA meeting. Go do a 4th and a 5th, and then Pastor Jeff, there's a strong chance he'll probably be there on Tuesday because he's been there for 14 years. You can make your amends once you get to your 9th. I just gained about 40 more haters by being honest. But the thing is this, I mean, the truth hurts, and now it says this, Matthew 6, no one can serve 2 masters. A lot of us in our recovery are serving money. We think that money can buy happiness. It says in Ephesians 5, follow God's example as dearly loved children and walk in the way of love. I mean, it's easy to love if you know you're dearly loved, and we know addiction is a love deficiency, and God always protects and blesses an example. And examples, just like Christ gave themselves up as a fragrant offering. When you're a giver, it's got a good scent to it. When you're generous, it's got a good scent to it. 1 Peter 2, the cost of suffering for the right reasons. I know how to suffer for the wrong reasons. I have to learn how to suffer for the right reasons. And God, I suffer for you, with you, and from you. People have suffered for me, with me, and from me. Those are the people I want to be around, that are willing to walk through the good times and the bad times. The people that you don't know what you got in life until that tree is shook. And the ones that are still on the branches are your people. Let God shake your tree. Let Him reveal who's really got your back. It's easy to have a person's back when all things are going great. But when all heck breaks loose and God shakes that tree, it don't matter if there's just one person left. That's one more person than a lot of people have. See, we got to understand how God works. I mean, I'm willing to suffer. I mean, like Dave alluded to. I mean, 24/7. Ask my kids. Ask my mom. Ask all the people that have come and gone. I say this all the time. The benefits of paying the price for freedom. There's benefits. John 15. Obtain elevated knowledge of God, yourself, and others. Greater love than this, it says. To lay down your life for one's friends. You hear it say, hey, I'm a friend of Bill W. Well, if you're a friend of Bill W., lay down your life. Lay down your life like I laid down my life for crack cocaine. Lay down and lose your life for your freedom, just like I was willing to lose my life in my addiction. Deny my family, myself, my integrity, my dreams for another hit, so I can deny myself for God, which will give me many rewards. It takes a level of common sense, but here's what it comes down to. You are my friends if you do what I command. This isn't a suggestion. I don't really work with men or women that I have to coddle. I don't do it. These are not suggestions, even though we say they are. They're commands. This is a command that you love one another. And love takes many different forms. Discipline is a form of love. Being direct is a form of love. And different things of that nature. But we have to understand that God is saying this, that you will be my friend if you do what I command. And you're not going to be my servant. You're going to be my friend. And if you're his friend, he will make certain things known to you. Not just certain things, what it says in your sheet, he will make everything known to you. I just met some of you. I'm not going to reveal certain things to you. But people that have been walking with me for years, that I truly are intimate friends have inside access. We have a lot of people that come and go in these rooms. But here's the thing. Stay around long enough to be someone's friend. That's another thing Matt said. Never had any best friends because he never knew how to go beyond the surface. Never really do it. So I want that. And it says, you did not choose me. I chose you. That God chose each and every one of us. He appointed you that you might go. I wish that word might wasn't there. That means some of us ain't going to do it. And I was one of them. that you might go and bear fruit, and the fruit that you bear, the results of this, they will actually last. They're not here today, gone tomorrow. And I love what it says. It's so important. It says in Romans 12, obtain freedom through your thought life. I just met with another guy on this before this. It's one thing to go through it and grind and do it and hate what you're doing the whole time you're doing it. It's another thing to get excited, like Stace says, I don't got to go to this meeting. I get to go to this meeting. There's a big difference of a mindset that says, I have to go to this Tuesday night meeting. Totally miserable. That's okay to start. But eventually, if you stick around, you'll say, I get to go. Because you know what? The guys at Oak Park Heights don't get to go. The guys at Hennepin County don't get to go. My friend who's in St. Cloud would kill to be here. He'd kill to be here. I just got a letter from him. He would kill to be here. And I remember what it was like to get here. So since I finally got here, I might as well stay here. Because getting here was not easy. And it says this, that if you do this and you present your body as a living sacrifice, ask yourself tonight what you presented your body to as a living sacrifice addicted. What were you willing to sacrifice for your addiction? I'm a living sacrifice. Some of us slept with people that we didn't know who they were. Some of us got this done. So we put everything on the line for our addiction, and it cost us everything, but yet we're still here. It says, do not conform to the pattern of this world. What happens after a while in addiction is you conform to failure. You conform to mistakes. You conform to guilt. You conform to condemnation. The Bible says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Mark 10, attain levels of increase in all areas of your life. This is Peter saying, we left everything to follow you. Well, I don't think any of us really left anything to follow God. I think we lost everything to follow him. And if we're honest with ourselves, if we hadn't lost everything, we probably wouldn't have followed him. So that's why I'm grateful for my addiction. I'm grateful but I love what it says. Truly I tell you, Jesus replied, no one who has left, now I want you to relate this to your addiction. This is you saying to your addiction, I left everything to follow you. What did you leave in your addiction to follow your addiction? Homes, brothers, sisters, mother, father, children, fields, which is your job. For the sake of your addiction. Think about what you left for the sake of your addiction. Now, Jesus is saying, hey, if you did it for something that's killing you, why can't you do it for me? If you do it for me, my promise is not jails, institution, and death. It doesn't mean you don't have to go home. It doesn't mean, and I'm looking at some of you right now that are geeking and tweaking under here, detoxing and jonesing. You're in the right place. Don't run to the dope. You got to understand the greatest thing about living on the streets is you don't miss much. Even though there's 300 plus of you, I can see all of you. And if you're high tonight and you're here, we love you. And the story of my life is this, because if you're high tonight and you're here, there's something inside you that still wants to get sober. And I applaud that in you. But what it's saying here is understand, I left all these things for dope, and now I'm saying I'll leave them, not literally, I still have a home, but God now has given me brothers and sisters in the hundreds in this room. Jobs, yes, I have one. Homes, yes, I have them. 100 times it says. But he says you can't have the blessing without the persecution. So when God blesses you, that gives somebody something to talk about. And if you're not doing anything, they got nothing to say. But once God blesses somebody of high magnitude, you will have haters everywhere. Everywhere. Right, Rich? Everywhere. And you're called to love them too. Because they really don't hate you. They really envy you, right, Clinton? They envy your success. They want to know how you got to where you are, but they ain't willing to pay the price to get there. I got over 100 of you that are living such a life that you never thought you could dream. And it has nothing to do with material stuff. I'm talking about it is intimidating to meet a guy that's always happy. If something does something, what's he have it, bro? You know, you got to be high or something. Somebody got a UA? If I was high, I wouldn't be happy. But I got people in this room that I'm here to tell you guys, when God elevates you, and he's doing that in each and every one of your lives to become a living sacrifice, if you put everything behind God, God will give you everything back. But if God takes the back seat of what you're trying to get, you're probably going to lose it again. It says the examination of the cost. It says Luke 14, what did you say when you said you wanted to get sober? What did you commit to? It says if you carry your own cross, my cross is different than your cross. My situation is different than your situation. I'm not saying that you have to do what I'm doing if we're both working the program, but the Bible says this, do not carry your own cross and follow me. You cannot be my disciple. It's a yes or no situation, but don't begin until you count the cost. I'm going to give you an example. I came back from Dallas about 3 weeks ago. I love my group. I love the men in my group. Come up here for a second. And unfortunately for all of you, God has called me to coach this. And I look around at the team. And God has called me to coach this. And I'm trying to, over 300 of you, trying to shed light on what God says, that you're a champion. God says you're an overcomer. God says this. So here's what I've been doing for 14 years. Come up a little bit. Now, you're in the game and your life depends on it, okay? The stuff that's being talked about is the playbook, and you got to follow the stuff. You got to follow the steps. This is what you got to do. And I look around at the team, and the devil's giggling at us. But what happens, and I'm here 14 years later, is these are people that are on the recovery team. And what happens is all right, let's get ready for the play. The end zone is that way. This is the way we want to go. So I need a couple of you guys to block. I need one to go out for a pass. I need you to stay on the field. We need to do this together. Your life depends on it. If we're going to be on this team, we got to do this together. It's the we thing. So let's do it. Here's what I've seen for 14 years with people that don't know if they want to be on the team. Hut, hut. They're fighting each other. They ran out of the room, and there's only one left standing. So how can you win when you're trying to do this with people that don't know if they want to do it? How can you win if two of the people on the line start fighting each other? How can you get these people excited and say this is worth it? That Jesus paid a cost and you have to pay a cost. And if you pay the cost, you can have the best life ever. And they're not so sure. Can you imagine being a coach where all the players aren't so sure? Where some of them will start beating up each other. You tell them to run this way, some of them will run out the back door. With God, you can do this. That's the only way to do this. So did I consider the cost 14 years ago, which is over 1,000 people on the playing field now? I had no clue the cost. And if I would have known that's what the game looked like, I would have quit on day one. Because that's the game all day, every day. All day, every day, people are fighting that don't need to be fighting, and we're all on the same team. All day, every day, people say they want to be on the team, and they run out the back door. All day, every day, you find one. And that's all I need on a daily, is just one that wants to do this with everything they got. Not second guessing, not doubting, not conspiracy theory, not hating, not judging, not envying. If you want what they have, you better be willing to do what they do. And if you don't know how they do it, follow them. Ask them. Do what you don't want to do. Pay the price. Do the things that they've done to get to where they are. Be the person that God has created you to be. Be the hands and feet of Jesus. Get out of your own way. Stop just trying to figure everything out. Your mind is a mess. The reason why I do what I've been doing for 14 years, I ain't teaching Little League. And if you want to play Little League or T-ball, go to a meeting down the street. I'm here to train Super Bowl people. This is the all-star team. And I'm here to tell you, I said it last week, my boys said it in the room, that was dangerous to do an altar call. That was dangerous. I said, you know what I said to them? I said, you know what, it hurt me because I'd put myself out there. But the ones that responded, and some of you aren't ready yet, that doesn't mean that it isn't about that. But my point is this, I will offend somebody that ain't going to be here in a month anyway, just to risk to tell them the truth. But I will draw somebody in that's meant to do this with us for the years to come. Those who leave, there's several of you, I see your faces. You left and now you're back. So since you came back and got the crap kicked out of you, you might as well stay. Because we love you. We love you. I'm way overboard. So you have to test yourself with the cost. You know, if somebody's wondering if you're working a program, you're not working a program. In closing, it says in 1 Corinthians, do you know that your bodies are a temple of the Holy Spirit? When you mistreat yourself, you're mistreating the God in you. That you were bought with a price. I don't know what God had to pay for you, but he had to come get me in the depths of my addiction, not once, not twice, not 10 times, not 20 times, well over 100 times. He paid for me to be here. God paid for your seat. But here's the thing, so many people think this is so hard, and Matthew 11 says, paying the price to be free, it's worth it. Are you tired, worn out, and burned out on religion? This is not meant to be easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it and everyone would stay in it. But I'm assuring you, I could grab 100+ people right now and say, it's worth doing. Everything it seems to be working. It says, come to me, Jesus is saying. God always answers the problem with the person, get away with me, and you'll recover your life. This is about recovering your life, not just quitting using. I'll show you how to take a real rest. The same scripture, different translation that Darren just read. It says, walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. When you see people living this life, watch how they operate. Watch what they do. It says, I'll learn an unforced rhythm of grace. When you start walking with God in this magnitude, you don't have to force your agenda. You don't have to get ahead of God. You don't have to manipulate outcomes. You don't have to try to convince your wife that it's time for you to go home. It's unforced. And there's a rhythm to it, and God's hand is on it, and his grace is on it, and it's magical, it's authentic. Don't force things in your life. Get in position and wait for God to bring it to you. Wait for God to bring it to you. It says, keep company with me. Who are you keeping company with? Matt said it last week when he got his several-year medallion. And I don't think this is a twisted, but watch who you're hanging with and really understand, male and female, check the motives of the man you're sitting next to. And men, do the same thing with the woman sitting next to you. You girls thought you were off the hook. And I'm telling you, it says, I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. This isn't going to kill you, but the other stuff will. Keep company with me, and you'll learn how to live freely and lightly. The thing is this, tonight was a little different night. I applaud all the new people here. I'm here to tell you, next week I'm going to talk to you about joy. I think without joy, you're not going to get sober. I'm not going to stay sober. But the thing is this, what I feel in this room, who I embrace tonight, some of you I met and I am a nobody. I'm a chronic addict that could get high tonight. I come direct and I come forceful because I care about you. Right. And I will weed out the stuff that needs to be weeded out. And those that know that they're supposed to be here, they will stay here. But at last time I checked, this room is full of champions. This room is full of world changers. This room is full of creative, authentic, driven, determined people. And if you do not force this thing, God will bring you things that are permanent. He will give you enough to work with. And once he really blesses you, you will say that he is a living God and he is a truthful God. And he has given me more than I can ask or imagine. I could care less about the material things because I tried to buy peace, shoot it, snort it, swallow it, and sleep with it. I even tried to buy peace back in the day. But I've learned this. this, the peace that he gave me and the peace that he can give you, and a lot of you have it. It's peace that no dope, no backbiter, no job, no dollar, no car, no woman, no man, no attaboy, no nothing. The peace that transcends understanding. It'll guard your heart and mind from any person that comes against you, because when you do it God's way, there is no weapon that comes against you that shall prosper. God's got your back, and if God's got your back, it don't matter who's got your front. It don't matter who's got your side. It doesn't matter who's got the other side. When God's got your back, it don't matter if two run the other way and two start fighting and one catches the pass. Because the one that just caught the pass is the one that we're going to build this with. And if you want to build this thing with us, you will not regret it. No one ever has, and no one ever will. That the rest of your life can be the best way. And God will use the most unlikely people, the most unlikely crackheads to change this city. And if you want in, if you want this, if you don't, we'll be here next week. Think about it. Pray about it. Get high about it. Go to detox about it. Go to jail about it. We'll leave the light on for you. God bless you.